brother.
Hello, sir.
Hello lah. Okay, man. Are you working today?
Always working.
Always working lah. My father was a migrant from China. He came here seeking a better life, and he was welcomed into Singapore. And now I have an opportunity to welcome other guest workers into Singapore, and I think that's quite special. My name is Ivan Tan, and I volunteer with AGWO, the Alliance of Guest Workers Outreach. And we do food deliveries and basically just befriending the guest workers. We call them guest workers because basically it changes the mindset. I think in the beginning we were all calling them migrant workers, but after a while we kind of realized that hey, they are actually guests in our countries. They're invited here, we ask them to come here and to work in our country, and it changes our mindset because if they're guests, then us as a host country and host people, what are our responsibilities for the guest workers, and it behooves us as hosts of the country to treat them well, to treat them with kindness, I think. During the circuit breaker, I think it was all over the news. You could see that a lot of the guest workers were going without food, and the lockdown came really suddenly. So it created a huge burden on society, I think, because how are you going to feed so many people within such a short time? So that's what sort of inspired me to just sort of throw in my bid to say, hey, I'm available, I have a car, if you need someone to deliver food, yeah, I'm happy to just join in. So when I started, it was this idea that, okay, I'm welcoming them into my home. So I'm there to help them and there to provide food for them. But then eventually, maybe a couple of months in, we started to build a relationship, and they welcomed me into their homes. I became the guest. What more? I mean, as hosts, why can't we welcome them into our community, into our countries, and into our homes? As guest workers, they are people as well. How do we acknowledge that and honor them as people, really, and say that, okay, this is what you like, let me provide you with what you like, instead of saying, this is what I have, take it, and be grateful. I think that is really the wrong attitude. If you treat people as guests, you would bother to find out about them and what they like, rather than just to impose your help. One particular incident was quite telling for me, because we were sending breakfast, and somehow the bread were not well received. So I thought, okay, I might as well ask. I said, how's the bread? And they said, we don't really like bread. Because in India, you only eat bread when you are kind of sick. You eat something plain. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. But the guest workers were really kind, and they just took it, and they didn't, give any negative feedback. But it got me thinking, like, hey, if we are going to provide something, and we would like them to enjoy it, it's better to just ask. So, eventually we kind of switched it around, and we got dosai, we got, stuff that hopefully they enjoyed more. When the circuit breaker ended, a lot of us kind of went back to work. And also at that time, getting food to them wasn't an issue anymore. But then the door was open. We made some relationships with the guest workers, and we felt that, hey, it'd be a shame to just end it here. Sometimes I'll be on a call with one of the dormitory IC, and we'd just be talking and just talking about his life and our lives. And I just felt like, okay, I've made a friend, and how do I keep this going? And it became more of a relationship, yeah. My greatest takeaway actually is to know Mooney, because at that time my mom was sick, his mom was sick. We talked a lot about our own parents, just from his stories about him and his mom, and I feel like, oh, I can actually do better. And he's actually very empathetic to my situation. And it just felt like, wow, we are both people trying to do our best for our families, regardless of the context that we are in. Ultimately that is our aim. Yeah. I think as a country we have the resources, but more importantly I think we have the heart to be kind to other people and to the people who come into our midst. I see that every day as well, in the kindness in people, in the hawker centres, in everywhere, So yeah, that's what I hope to see for Singapore actually.